The F-35 Lightning II can detect threats 100 miles away, evade the world's most advanced radar system, and obliterate enemy positions before they know what hit them. China has spent 2 decades building the J-20 to counter it. But there's one vulnerability the Pentagon doesn't advertise, and it has nothing to do with stealth, speed, or firepower. It's a weakness so critical that in a Pacific conflict, half of America's F-35 fleet could be grounded before the first shot is fired, and Beijing has no idea it exists. The irony? This weakness was built into the jet from day one. It's invisible on radar, impossible to shoot down, and it could hand China an advantage they never earned on the battlefield. Here's what's really happening behind the world's most expensive fighter program. The United States has committed over $1.7 trillion to the F-35 program across its 66-year planned life cycle. More than 1,000 jets are already operational or in production for the U.S. and its allies. On paper, this fifth-generation stealth fighter represents the cutting edge of American air dominance. A radar cross-section the size of a golf ball, sensor fusion that turns pilots into battlefield quarterbacks, and the ability to operate undetected deep inside enemy territory. China knows that is why they developed the J-20 Mighty Dragon, a stealth interceptor optimized to challenge American air power in the Western Pacific. The J-20 is larger, built for long range, and paired with PL-15 missiles designed to reach support aircraft before they can withdraw. Its mission is simple: deny the United States access to the first island chain during a Taiwan contingency. But here's the problem: China's strategists are not counting on. They are preparing to fight the wrong battle. Can the F-35 maintain air superiority in a prolonged Pacific conflict when its greatest vulnerability is not enemy fighters, but its own supply chain? On one side is the F-35, a technological marvel dependent on a global, just-in-time logistics network that was never designed for sustained, high-intensity warfare. The jet relies on thousands of parts sourced from suppliers across multiple continents, coordinated by a digital ecosystem that ties every aircraft to centralized maintenance servers. On the other side is China's regional strategy: overwhelming local force concentration, layered anti-access systems, and the assumption that American technological superiority will automatically translate into sustained battlefield dominance. Modern air warfare is no longer only about who has the better jet. It is about who can keep their jets flying when supply lines are severed, parts run out, and the digital infrastructure holding everything together becomes a primary target. And here is where it gets interesting. The F-35's Achilles heel is something the Pentagon saw coming years ago and still has not fully fixed. The F-35 is not just a fighter jet, it is a flying data center that generates massive volumes of information every single flight. Every system, from weapons targeting to engine diagnostics, is digitally integrated and monitored in real time. This gives pilots an enormous advantage. They see the battle space earlier, react faster, and coordinate more effectively than any previous generation of aircraft. But that digital supremacy comes with a hidden cost. For years, every F-35 depended on a logistics backbone called ALIS, the Autonomic Logistics Information System, to function. ALIS was supposed to be revolutionary, a network that predicted maintenance needs, tracked parts across the globe, and kept the fleet mission-ready with minimal human intervention. In practice, it became a bottleneck. The system relied on clunky interfaces, error-prone data entry, and outdated hardware that often slowed down rather than streamlined operation. Maintainers reported false alarms that grounded perfectly healthy jets, while real issues sometimes got buried under bad data. The result was a fleet that looked advanced on paper, but spent too much time sitting on the ground. The answer was a transition to a new architecture called ODIN, the Operational Data Integrated Network. ODIN promised to be lighter, faster, cloud-based, and more secure. It is gradually replacing ALIS across the fleet, designed to cut hardware footprint and improve usability for maintainers. But here's the kicker: even with ODIN, the fundamental dependency remains the same. Every F-35, whether flown by the Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, or allied nations, still relies on connectivity to centralized servers for mission planning, maintenance data, and parts tracking. In a war with a peer adversary like China, those digital nerves become legitimate target. If those networks are disrupted, degraded, or cut off from forward bases, the fleet's ability to sustain high-tempo operations starts to erode fast. And that erosion has nothing to do with stealth coatings or missile loadout. This is where China has made a critical miscalculation. A senior US officer responsible for the program has already warned that the F-35's just-in-time supply model is too risky for the next war. That phrase is not a throwaway line, it is a strategic red flag. Just-in-time logistics means parts arrive shortly before they are needed. Inventory is kept lean. Warehouses are not stuffed with spares. The system is optimized for cost and efficiency in peacetime. That works when shipping lanes are open, commercial flights run on schedule, and maintenance hubs operate without interruption. In a Taiwan scenario, that entire assumption collapses. Picture this. It is day 3 of a high-end conflict. F-35 squadrons at Kadena Air Base and other Pacific locations have been flying hard sorties since the first missile salvos. Engines are running hot. Components are wearing out faster than usual. The jets need replacement parts. The shipment carrying those parts is still days away, moving across thousands of miles of contested ocean, under threat from submarines and long-range anti-ship missiles. The aircraft on the ground cannot wait. At the same time, forward bases are under sustained pressure from ballistic and cruise missiles. Runways are being repaired as fast as they are cratered. Every flight that can launch matters, but the jets that have the edge in stealth and sensor are sidelined by something as mundane as a missing component and a late shipment. The F-35 fleet already struggles with availability in peacetime. Mission-capable rates have hovered close to or just above the halfway mark, with many jets unable to perform at least one of their assigned missions on any given day. Engine wear driven by heavy cooling demands has added tens of billions of dollars in projected maintenance costs over the life of the program, forcing decision-makers to buy new components instead of repairing older ones simply to keep aircraft flying. In a high-tempo Indo-Pacific conflict, component failure accelerates. The distances explode. The logistics problem, Guam to Taiwan, is roughly 1,700 miles, about the distance from Los Angeles to Chicago. Every part crossing that gap under threat consumes time, escorts, and protection that may not be available when missiles are already flying. In peacetime, this is expensive and embarrassing. In wartime, it is catastrophic. What happens next is even more surprising. Beijing's military planners have funneled money and effort into building systems that can defeat the F-35 inches the skies. They field the J-20 with a focus on speed and reach. They deploy long-range missiles meant to push American tankers and radar aircraft far away from the fight. They invest in radar networks and sensor fusion designed to unmask stealth aircraft at long range, but they may be preparing to solve the wrong problem. They do not need to shoot down F-35 seconds if a significant portion of the fleet is already grounded by maintenance delays and spare parts shortages. They do not need to cripple the data networks if those networks are already fragile under stress. They do not need to build a fighter that outperforms the F-35 inches, a clean, one-on-one engagement, if the F-35 cannot sustain combat operations beyond the opening phase of a campaign. Here is the part that should keep U.S. planners up at night. China likely does not fully appreciate the scale of this vulnerability. From the outside, public debates in the United States frame these issues as budget fights and program management headaches, sustainment costs, readiness shortfalls, and software modernization challenges. They are rarely discussed in the same breath as war plans for the Western Pacific. Meanwhile, China's own logistics model looks very different. Its fighters operate from bases on home soil, connected to relatively short and protected supply lines. Its industrial base, while not without problems, is geographically concentrated and politically controlled in a way that allows rapid redirection of resources in wartime. The J-20 fleet does not depend on contested sea lanes or vulnerable overseas depots to the same degree. The irony is harsh. The United States built what is arguably the most capable multi-role fighter ever fielded, and then tied it to a support system optimized for peace, not war. The weakness that could hurt the F-35 most in a real conflict is not a radar, a missile, or a rival jet. It is a logistics architecture and sustainment concept that cannot take a punch, and the window to fix that is closing. So, can the F-35 maintain air superiority in a prolonged Pacific conflict when its greatest vulnerability is its own supply chain? As things stand today, the answer is no. The jet's technological edge, but superiority means nothing if the aircraft cannot stay in the air when it matters most. Right now, the United States cannot guarantee that at scale over time in a high-end Indo-Pacific war. First, technology alone does not win wars, logistics does. The F-35 is proof that even the most advanced aircraft becomes a liability if its support structure is tuned for efficiency instead of resilience. Second, China does not need a better fighter if America's fighter cannot stay in the fight. The J-20 does not have to dominate in a dogfight. It only has to outlast a fleet hamstrung by availability and sustainment problem. Third, American leaders know this is a problem and are trying to fix it. The move from Alice to Odin, efforts to stock more spares, and initiatives to harden logistics are steps in the right direction, but they still operate within a model rooted in peacetime assumptions. So, America's F-35 has one weakness China does not know about yet. The vulnerability is not hidden in the jet's stealth shaping or its sensor suite. It lives in spreadsheets, shipping schedule, and server racks. The United States now faces a simple but brutal choice: rebuild the logistics system to match the weapon it created, or risk watching that weapon sit idle when it is needed most. The most advanced fighter jet ever built, grounded not by enemy missile, but by spreadsheets and shipping containers.